Hello, it's Ben with the DIY Homefront, and I've got a little bit of rant and raving to do today. I've got another repair project. I've got a Kobalt blower that I bought in 2016 that the little clip that holds the battery has broke, and I can't seem to find one. It's probably a 20-cent piece of plastic. Now in 2022, the original battery for this had died, so I purchased another one, and it was 119 bucks. Now, I'm not sure how much a new one is, but I just don't feel like paying that. So today's project is to see if I can't mend or fix that little piece of plastic. Now, I did go online and look, and I could probably buy just a new blower for parts, because they're selling those on Facebook Marketplace. But they're about 40 bucks, and then I'm going to pay shipping. Or I could get one with a new battery in it, but then we're looking at 80 or 90 plus shipping. I just don't see a good solution, and I want to be a good environmentalist. I don't want to throw batteries into the trash and buy a new battery operated tool just because of planned obsolescence or a 23-cent part. So I don't know. I'm just ranting now. Like I said, I'm going to rant and rave. Well, let's see if I can rant and rave my butt into fixing this thing. Welcome to the DIY Homefront channel. So this small piece here is supposed to have two plastic tabs on each side. And those plastic tabs allow this to be held in place on a spring that pushes down. So when you put the battery in, it ends up catching on the battery and keeping the battery to come out. The way it is right now, if you put a battery in, there's nothing to hold it down. So if you want to use a weed eater, you have to take one hand and hold the battery in and squeeze the trigger with the other hand. And I'm going to try to fix it using a coat hanger, maybe some JB Weld, and a few tools. Well, at the moment, the battery and the blower don't mean anything. It's just this little piece right here. Man, there's a little birdie in the background that is loud. Well, one of the things I need to do is actually figure out how wide this piece would be if it weren't broken, because I need to cut a piece of coat hanger that's going to end up being just a little bit shorter than that. I've got a fairly large set of wire cutters, and I'm going to cut this coat hanger at a 45-degree angle because I'm going to end up pushing it through some plastic, and I'm thinking that'll help. At the moment, I'm only cutting one side, but what I want to do is put this coat hanger into this little plastic tab that broke off. And I got a drill bit that's the same size, probably, and a drill bit that's a little bit smaller. We're going to start with a smaller one first. Let's see if I can drill into the center of this. What I want to do is drill a hole that doesn't go all the way through this piece of plastic that I can shove that coat hanger into. Well, now that I've got it started, I'll drill a little bit and then check the depth of my drill bit into the hole and go from there. So it's looking pretty good, but I think I want it just a little bit deeper. Now let's see if the coat hanger will fit in the hole. Now, will that slide in there? Oop, it will. How about that? Now I'll use the pliers and make sure we've got the coat hanger to the very bottom of the hole we made. The next thing I need to do is drill a hole in there. So I'm going to make sure when I drill the hole, I center it in such a way that there's plenty of plastic all the way around it, which means starting to drill the hole right at the center line. But I don't want to drill straight through the piece at the center because it's just going to weaken the whole piece. So I'm going to drill it at an angle towards the top of this little piece. That is, if I can get it started. Well, I've got a nice little hole started, so I'm going to change this so that way I can drill into it at that angle I was talking about, so that I'm not drilling through the piece but just through the center of the hole along the edge. And there we go. And I'm going to have to do the same type of hole on the other side. So my goal is to be able to slide the coat hanger through these two holes and then have those plastic pieces on each end of the coat hanger to hold this little lock in place. I'm going to go ahead and cut some of this coat hanger off just to make the piece a little bit more manageable to work with. So the coat hanger slides into the hole on one side pretty easy, but there's no way it's going to go into the hole on the other side without putting a pretty good bend in it. And it's going to take me 3 or 4 tries to get this done. So we're going to go to the last time where I had the correct bend and it went in one side and came out the other. Well, it may not look like it, but I'm being as careful as I can while I push this coat hanger through these 2 holes. I don't want to break this piece of plastic because the blower is never going to work right if I do. Well, now that the coat hanger is pushed all the way through, you can see what I have in plan for this piece. I'll end up having the coat hanger support those 2 little tabs on each side. So having said that, let's go ahead and drill out the other little plastic tab so we can measure the coat hanger and get it cut to the right length. Now once I have this little tab lined up against the coat hanger, I'll go ahead and cut it off, and then I can get the tab out of the way and cut just a little bit more off, and then it should fit right inside of the hole we cut in that piece of plastic. Well, here we go. We've rebuilt the piece that broke, but I would like to reinforce this piece of plastic where the metal coat hanger goes across the top of it. Well, before I do that, I'm going to test fit a spring that came off of this piece. Now it's spring actuated, which basically means this spring will go over each one of these tabs, and when it's connected to the blower, it'll push downward on top of the battery, and that's what actually causes it to lock the battery into place. And here you can see exactly what I mean. As that spring pushes down, it locks onto that battery. Well, it looks like our piece is going to function properly. Let's strengthen it up now. We're going to use some clear, quick epoxy cement on this. This is a 2-part epoxy, so you'll have to squirt some out and then mix the 2 portions together. This is totally on a different subject, but if you want to reseal this, you can take a hot glue gun and put some on the tip, and then you can save that long applicator tip for those hard to reach spots. I'll mix the 2 parts together with my drill bit, and then we can spread this out over that piece we just fixed. I'll make sure I get plenty of the epoxy on both sides of the coat hanger and cover that plastic really well, because we want this to all become just one solid piece. And I'm really going to load this up with that epoxy. I think it's probably better to have too much than too little, and then we can set it off to the side and let the epoxy harden. Now, it's been my experience with JB Weld that the epoxy can sort of run before it hardens, so I'm going to prop it up to make sure the epoxy stays where I want it. Alright, well, it has dried for an hour. It is all pretty much one piece, which means we need to take apart the blower and see if we can put this back where it originally was. Now this is where that's going to go, and it's got 2 little divots on each side that it needs to go into, so we need to open this up. And I'm going to take all of these Phillip head screws out. So taking the screws out is easy, but the hardest part of working on something like this is trying to figure out where all the hidden screws are and get the thing apart without breaking anything else. And here's one of those moments. I've got all the screws out from the side, so why isn't this coming apart? And it is because there's 3 screws along the bottom and 4 screws that hold this little fan cover on. So now why isn't it coming apart? Let me keep digging. Well, I finally found these 2 metal clips in the front that were holding the 2 halves of plastic together. There's one on the bottom and one on the top. And the only way I could seem to get them out was to use a pair of needle nose pliers. Well, with both of these clips removed, the 2 halves of the blower come apart, and we can finally access the holder for the battery. And that turns out to be a separate piece of plastic all by itself. So we're going to need to see if we can't get our repaired piece into the location that it's designed to go. I hate bending and twisting plastic. I'm always afraid I'm going to crack it, but I didn't see any other way to do it. But with a little bit of effort, I finally got it in, and now we can reassemble this whole thing and see if it works. I don't know why, but I really struggled with this plastic battery holder, trying to get it reseated back into the halves so I could put this back together. Well, anyway, once I finally got it lined up, it was time to get all those Phillip head screws in. Now I made sure everything was seated right, and 1 or 2 times I had a little bit of a difficulty trying to get things to line up with the handle, but for the most part, it went just fine. Well, if I'm honest, it probably took me a couple of days to come up with a good fix for this blower, and I'm just glad that my fix worked. Well, there you go, a big win for the DIY channel. We got the blower working. That 20-cent piece of plastic the engineer designed that broke, we fixed it. It works. We saved the environment because we didn't put plastic and batteries back into it. I saved some money because I get to use that battery I bought and don't have to buy a new one. All the way around, it's a win-win-win. Well, I hope this gives you the confidence to try some out-of-the-box thinking when you have something that's not working. If it's broke, you can't break it. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in that next video.